Good afternoon and Jai Hind, children. Before we start with the exercise, let us do a quick recap of the different continuous tenses which we had discussed. Let us start the day with the present continuous tense. Present continuous tense is used for stating three particular, I would say, situations. The first is to describe an action which is happening right now. The second is to describe an action that has been going on for over, say, a period of time, but may not be going on at the time of speaking. Like, Sham is learning to drive a car. Okay, so that means he is learning it right now. All right, and he might have forgotten, but then it's okay. He has started again and he's doing it right now. The third situation is to describe a planned future event, the time for which is almost given. So that means it is also used for something which, you have just planned and the action has not been taken yet, right? Now, there are a few exceptions and let us go by it one by one. Before that, let me tell you that we also use adverbs or phrases of present time such as now, at this moment, and at present in present continuous tense. So if you get to see, if you find now, at this moment, and at present in a sentence, you will understand that it is in a present continuous tense. Now, we don't use continuous tense for few things. For verb of sense and perception, that means if I say I'm hearing the noise, that is incorrect. I hear the noise or I listen to the music. Now, the next exception, that means where you should not use present continuous tense, is like when the verbs are expressing the state of mind. All right, let me, okay. So, for example, like whenever you're talking about somebody's state of mind or emotion, okay, so thereby you should not use the present continuous tense. As I had discussed, we should not say that I am admiring you. It is always like I admire you. Now, when I'm talking about verbs of thinking or other mental activity, like I think you are wrong, so that is totally correct. But if I say that, well, I'm thinking that you are wrong or you are going wrong, that is totally wrong. That is the incorrect way. Now, when I'm talking about verbs of possession, that means belongingness, when something belongs to you. Okay, so thereby it is again incorrect to use the present continuous tense. Okay, so that was that were few areas wherein you should not use the present continuous tense. Now let us have a quick recap about the past continuous tense. Well, past continuous tense is again used precisely for specifically two places, like when you are describing an action going on at a point of time or over a period of time in the past, wherein the time of action may or may not be indicated. So it can be indicated. That means you might have a time when it started or when it was, or you may not have. Like, I was working till late last night. Okay, so here I'm specifying, I'm not specifying a particular time. Okay, but then yes, definitely I'm talking that it was late night. Now, if I say my friends were watching television till 2 a.m. last night, so here again I'm specifying one particular time, that is 2 a.m., and that it was last night. So you see, during this time, we are using past continuous tense. Now, when I'm describing an action that is in progress, when another action took place, okay, so please understand this. Here you will find two things happening. One thing which has already, it's over, and the other thing, it is still in that ongoing, in that progress. Okay. For example, they were having dinner when I arrived. That means when I arrived, when I reached their house, I found that they were having their dinner. Right. So here you see, I'm having two things. I'm having past continuous as were having, that is one action which is in progress, and the other action is what? That I arrived at their house. Okay. So past continuous tense is used herein to describe the action which was in progress, which was in continuity when another thing happened. That means when another action took place. Here what happened? Another action was my dropping into their house. And what was the action which was in progress? That all my friends were having their dinner, right? Let us take another example to clarify this. When I met him, he was rehearsing for the show that day. So that means when I met him, that is one action. Meeting him is the one action. Now, what was the other action which was in progress? It was his rehearsal. That means he was practicing for the show, and thereby what happened? I just bumped into him. I met him. Okay, so that this is the other action which happened. So now in such situation, we use past continuous tense, right? Now let us do some exercises. Okay. All right. Before we jump into the exercises, let me just give you a quick recap for the future continuous tense as well. All right. So future continuous tense, this is you can say that the present continuous tense and the future continuous tense, they have the usage more or less the same. Like we can also say the same thing using present continuous tense. For example, next week we are visiting our cousins in Nagaland. So next week means the time which is about to come, right? So that is talking about the future. And now what did we do? We are visiting our cousins in Nagaland. So here the verb are and the verb and ing, that is are visiting, can also be said that it is the present continuous tense. But here what I'm trying to say is that since we are planning for the future, okay, since we are planning for the future, thereby if you find things like next week or next month or next year, you have to just keep in mind that if such uh, phrases are there, you should understand that it is the future. It is talking about the future. Now to describe an action that will be in progress at a given point of a time in the future, therein you will specifically use future continuous tense. For example, if I'm specifying a time, say um, I will be having my dinner at 10 p.m. So, will be having is the future continuous tense which I have used in this sentence. Why? Because I'm talking about 10 o'clock and it is not yet 10 o'clock. So, thereby I'm using future continuous tense. Now, if I wish to describe an action that is fairly certain to happen in future, in the near future, like I told that particular example which was used in your present continuous tense, thereby also what we'll do is we'll just replace the verb are visiting into will be visiting. Okay, like next week we will be visiting our cousins in Nagaland. So if I use will be visiting, that tends to become future continuous tense. But when I'm using are visiting in that same sentence, it is present continuous tense. Although both mean the same. Okay, but just to denote the demarcation between future continuous tense and the present continuous tense, what we have done is we have just changed the verb, the be verb, the auxiliary verb into will be when I'm using for the future continuous tense. And when I was talking about the present continuous tense, it was the simple be verb, that is are, and action word plus ing. I hope it is clear. I know it sounds very confusing, but you know, children, what happens? The more you practice doing exercises, the more confident you tend to become. Okay, exercise.